I actually heard it. I heard that in some countries, they told churches to open and they gave them guidelines. But when you read the guidelines, you immediately know that those guidelines, they're not from minds that have any science in them. Yeah. I asked someone to read to me what the guidelines they gave them. It was all just a laughing matter. You couldn't believe that educated people drew up those guidelines. But I was later told they were actually ministers. That means they were church leaders who gave those guidelines to government. You see it? They gave those guidelines to government. Government consulted church leaders and asked them what guidelines to follow. And these church leaders who are full of fear, they are afraid of the virus, but they are telling people Jesus Christ is the same yesterday, today, and forever. They don't believe in Jesus. No, of course they don't believe in Jesus. You cannot believe in Jesus Christ and be afraid of viruses. Jesus touched the lepers.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He touched the lepers and healed them. I've been ministering at the healing school. I've laid hands on all kinds of sicknesses and diseases and people that had contagious diseases. All kinds, including leprosy I just mentioned to you. Never once did I think I might have an infection. Because the Bible is clear. But these people who are afraid are pretending to represent Christians to the government. It's a shame. I think the government leaders are laughing at them. Because if you are a Christian and you say you are a minister of the gospel, what gospel? What? You have no gospel. If you're afraid of a virus, you have no gospel. Your gospel has ended.
Yes.
The moment you began to give such guidelines to people in the church, you repudiated your faith in Christ.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It's as simple as that. Once you started telling the churches that they should listen to science and which was not science, you know, your false science, pseudoscience, telling them to listen to these kind of things. The moment you started that, you backslid. So I tell you that many of those ministers, they need prayers. You know, they need prayers. And we have to pray for many pastors and leaders who are scared of the disease. And they are the ones that are actually, maybe you don't know this, the reason many churches are still shut down is not just because of government, it's because of the church leaders who insisted to government not to let the churches open, except the churches follow these wicked guidelines. They are wicked guidelines. That if you want to lay hands, one of those guidelines, if you want to lay hands on the sick, you should wear a glove to lay hands on the sick.
Wow.
This is crazy.
Totally crazy.
And that Holy Communion should be suspended. Holy Communion that Jesus told us to take. We are told to suspend them because of a pandemic. This is crazy.
Absolutely.
You see, God's people need to realize what is going on. I spoke to a group of pastors recently, and what I said to them was, what they're planning is unknown to them, the ultimate tool for persecution. So that the churches and the Christians that decide that they will follow Jesus Christ with all their heart will now be singled out and persecuted. And who will persecute them? The same people that persecuted Jesus. They were the religious crowd. The Pharisees of today.
Yes, sir.
They are the ones. preparing to persecute their brothers and sisters because they have told government that they are ready to supervise. How will they supervise? By sending out their members with cane or with what? To go to other churches and report the churches. They are going to be spies. They have decided they will be spies for the government. If you are, I'm not sure which church you are in, but ask your pastor if he's in that kind of association. Maybe you should find out. So frankly, I'm convinced that those guidelines are unacceptable.
Yes, sir.
They're not coming, they're not based on science. In fact, what you're going to see as this is the month of June, and we're going into a period where many governments are going to be sued.
Amen. Yes, sir.
Many
Amen.
governments will be sued. And here's why. Because they destroyed businesses and economies on the basis of false claims, false information. Now, they're going to be asked to provide in courts of law scientific evidence for the actions they took.
Yes, sir.
I told you that day will come. For some, it'll be right now, as we're entering beginning from the month of June. You're going to begin to see it. Then apart from this time, there are some that will be called back few years from now to answer for these actions that they took.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Because many people died as a result of this. Many people who were sick of other things were not allowed to be cured because of these actions.